My son-in-law ended up in the hospital after a horrific car crash, while I brought hot coffee every morning to the lonely old lady in the next room. On discharge day, she suddenly gripped my wrist hard and hissed, "Run from that monster before it's too late." I thought she was losing her mind. Until that same night, before continuing, subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is in your region right now. My name is Martin Lawrence. I'm 68 years old, living in Portland, Oregon. Spent 37 years running into burning buildings while everyone else ran out. Retired in 2017, thought I'd finally get some peace. Funny how life works. My daughter Danielle is 35. She used to be the kind of kid who'd wait by the window when I worked overnight shifts, just to give me a hug when I got home. Now she barely looks at me when we pass in the hallway of my own house. The change didn't happen overnight, though. It started 4 years ago when she met James Turner at some marketing conference in Seattle. James seemed decent enough at first. 48 years old, clean cut, worked in real estate development, smiled a lot, called me sir, brought flowers when they visited. I remember thinking, finally someone who'll take care of my girl. The wedding was small, tasteful. I paid for most of it, which didn't bother me. That's what fathers do. The first year of marriage, they lived in their own apartment across town. Danielle would call twice a week. We'd meet for Sunday dinners. Then James's big project fell through. He explained it over coffee one afternoon, looking genuinely concerned. Some deal with investors went south. They needed to cut expenses temporarily. Could they stay with me for a few months? 2 years later, they're still here. In my house on Hawthorne Boulevard. The house I bought in 1989 for $83,000, now worth $840,000 according to the latest property assessment. I started noticing things change about 6 months after they moved in. Danielle stopped asking about my day, stopped cooking the Sunday pot roast she knew I loved. James began making little comments about the house. "You know, Martin, this place is getting too big for one person to maintain. All these stairs can't be good for your knees?" I just turned 66. My knees worked fine. Then came the suggestions about updating my will. Just to make things easier, when the time comes. The way James said it, casual as discussing the weather, made my skin crawl. But I kept quiet, watched, old habit from the firehouse. Assess the situation before you act. The morning everything shifted started ordinarily enough. June 15th, a Tuesday. I was in my workshop in the garage, refinishing an oak chair I'd picked up at an estate sale. Restoration work keeps my hands busy, my mind calm. That's when Danielle burst in, her face pale. "Dad, there's been an accident. James was driving to a meeting and someone hit him. He's at OHSU hospital." My stomach dropped. Whatever tension existed between us, I didn't want the man hurt. We drove to Oregon Health and Science University Hospital in silence. Danielle's hands shook on the steering wheel. I wanted to reach over, squeeze her shoulder like I used to, but something stopped me. The hospital emergency room had that distinct smell, antiseptic trying to mask something worse. James was in a bed, his left arm in a sling, a bandage on his forehead. He looked uncomfortable but alert. Too alert, I'd think later. "Martin," he said when he saw me, his voice strained. "Thanks for coming." "Of course," I replied. "What happened?" "Some idiot ran a red light at the intersection near Powell Boulevard. Hit my driver's side. My shoulders dislocated, few bruised ribs, possible concussion. They're keeping me for observation." Danielle hovered at his bedside, adjusting his pillows, getting him water. The nurses came and went. Eventually, a doctor appeared, young woman with tired eyes, and explained James would need to stay at least 3 to 5 days for monitoring and pain management. "I'll be here," Danielle announced immediately. "Dad, you should go home, get some rest. I'll call if anything changes." The dismissal stung, but I nodded. As I walked down the corridor toward the elevator, I passed another room. The door was open, and inside I saw an elderly woman, sitting up in bed, staring out the window. She looked so alone it stopped me in my tracks. The next morning I returned to the hospital around 8. James was sleeping. Danielle was on her phone in the corner. I excused myself to find coffee in the cafeteria. On my way back, I passed that same room. The elderly woman was awake, still staring out the window at the Portland skyline. I paused at her doorway. "Morning," I said. She turned, surprised. "Good morning. You drink coffee?" I asked, holding up my extra cup. I'd bought two without really thinking about it. Her face transformed. "I haven't had real coffee in 4 days. They bring me tea. I hate tea." I stepped inside, handed her the cup. "Martin Lawrence." "Edith Palmer," she replied, taking a grateful sip. "You visiting someone?" "My son-in-law. Car accident. Room right next door." "Ah," she said, and something in her tone made me look closer. "Well, aren't we neighbors then?" We talked for 20 minutes. Edith was 81, admitted for complications from pneumonia. No family had visited, no children. Her husband died 12 years ago. Most friends gone or moved to assisted living. When I stood to leave, she thanked me 3 times for the coffee. The next morning I brought her coffee again, and the morning after that. It became routine. I'd arrive at 7:30, stop at the cafeteria, bring Edith her coffee, chat for 15 or 20 minutes, then visit James. Danielle noticed on day 3. "You're spending a lot of time with that old woman," she said, her tone odd. "Her name's Edith. She's lonely." "She's not your responsibility, Dad." I stared at my daughter. When had she become someone who'd say something like that? "Being kind doesn't require responsibility," I said quietly. She looked away, back to her phone. James was recovering well. Too well, honestly. For someone who'd supposedly been in a serious car accident, he moved around the bed without much difficulty. Got up to use the bathroom without assistance. Made phone calls in a voice that didn't sound pained at all. I kept these observations to myself. Edith, meanwhile, became a bright spot in those hospital visits. She had sharp wit, told stories about working as a social worker in Portland for 40 years, asked thoughtful questions about firefighting, about my life. She noticed things, too. On day 5, after I'd been sitting with her for half an hour, she said, "Your son-in-law, the one next door, how long have you known him?" 4 years. Why?" "Just curious." She sipped her coffee slowly. "You seem like a good man, Martin. Good men sometimes don't see snakes until they're already bit." I laughed it off, but the comment lodged in my brain like a splinter. That evening, I overheard Danielle and James talking. I'd stepped out to move my car from a short-term spot and came back sooner than expected. Their voices drifted from his room. "Just needs to last a little longer," James was saying. "I know, but he's being stubborn," Danielle replied. "He'll come around. They always do." I didn't enter, stood in the hallway, my chest tight. "They always do?" Who was they? The hospital visits continued. Each morning I'd bring Edith her coffee. We'd talk. Then I'd spend obligatory time in James's room, where Danielle barely acknowledged me, and James played the injured victim. But I started watching differently, cataloging details. James's bandage got smaller each day, but he kept the sling on whenever nurses or doctors appeared. The moment they left, he'd casually use that arm to grab his phone or adjust the television remote. Once, I watched him forget completely and reach across his body with his injured arm to grab a water pitcher. He caught me looking and quickly winced, putting the arm back in the sling. "Still pretty sore," he said. "I'm sure," I replied, my voice neutral. Danielle never noticed, or pretended not to. She sat in that chair by his bed like a sentinel, but her attention was always on her phone or laptop, not on James. When she did look at me, her expression held something I couldn't quite name. Impatience? Resentment? One morning, while I was with Edith, she asked about Danielle. "Your daughter comes to see you too?" "She's here for James. I'm just around." Edith set down her coffee cup carefully. "Martin, can I tell you something?" "Of course." 15 years ago I had a nephew. Trevor, sweet boy when he was young. Visited me regularly after my husband died. Started helping with my finances. Said it was too much for me to handle alone. She paused, looking out the window. Within 2 years, he'd convinced me to sign over power of attorney. Cleaned out my savings account. Took out a reverse mortgage on my house without telling me. By the time I realized what was happening, I'd lost almost everything. My hands went cold. "What did you do?" "Got a lawyer, eventually, but the damage was done. Lost the house, most of my money. Trevor disappeared to Arizona. Last I heard, he'd found another elderly widow to help. I'm sorry, Edith." "Don't be sorry. Be smart." She looked at me directly. "I see patterns, Martin. Comes from 40 years in social work. I've seen hundreds of Trevors. And your son-in-law, she trailed off. What about him? Just be careful, that's all I'm saying. I wanted to defend James, defend Danielle, but the words stuck in my throat. Because deep down, I'd been feeling the same creeping unease. That afternoon, Danielle dropped a bomb. We were in the hospital cafeteria, grabbing lunch. She'd barely spoken during the meal, pushing salad around her plate. Dad, have you thought about the future? The future? Your living situation. You're 68. That house is a lot to maintain. The yard, the repairs, all those stairs. Here it was. I manage fine. But for how long? James and I were thinking. Maybe you should consider one of those senior living communities. Nice places, they have activities, meals prepared. You'd have people around your own age. I set down my sandwich very carefully. You want me to sell my house? Not sell, I mean, eventually maybe, but we could keep it. James knows real estate. He could manage it as a rental property or something. While I live in a senior community. It's just an idea, Dad. Something to think about. She wouldn't meet my eyes. I'd run into burning buildings for 37 years, faced down flames that could melt steel, smoke that could choke you dead in seconds. But sitting across from my daughter in that sterile cafeteria, hearing her suggest I abandon my home, my independence, that was a different kind of fear. I'll think about it, I said, because what else could I say? She nodded, relieved, and changed the subject. I remembered a different Danielle, 10 years old, scraped knee from falling off her bike. I'd cleaned the wound while she tried not to cry. You're the bravest person I know, Daddy, she'd said. I'd kissed her forehead, told her she was braver. That memory felt like it belonged to someone else's life. Or when she was 16, came home crying because some boy had humiliated her at school. We sat on the porch, eating ice cream, and I told her anyone who couldn't see her worth wasn't worth her tears. She'd hugged me so tight. I love you, Dad. You always know what to say? When did I stop knowing what to say? When did she stop wanting to hear it? The hospital days blurred together. Edith and I developed a comfortable routine. She told stories about cases she'd worked, families torn apart by greed, elderly people exploited by those they trusted most. I told her about fires I'd fought, people I'd saved, a few I couldn't. You have good instincts, she said one morning. Trust them. James was discharged on day 7. The morning he left, I brought Edith her coffee as usual. She was dressed, packed, being discharged that same day. A care facility was sending transport. I'll miss our talks, I said. We'll see each other again, she replied, which seemed optimistic, given she was going to assisted living and I had no idea where. As I turned to leave, she grabbed my wrist. Her grip was surprisingly strong for an 81-year-old woman who'd been hospitalized for pneumonia. Martin, her eyes were intense, almost fierce. Run from that monster before it's too late. I froze. Edith, I see him. I know what he is. Get away while you can. She released my wrist, sat back, suddenly looking confused and tired. A nurse entered to check her vitals. I backed out of the room, unsettled. Loneliness and medication, I thought. Old woman getting paranoid. But her words echoed in my head all day. That evening, James and Danielle were settled back at the house. I'd stopped at the grocery store, arrived home later than usual. Around 8 o'clock, I realized I'd left my phone in the truck. Went outside to grab it. The living room window was open. Unusual for June in Portland, but it had been warm. As I approached my truck, I heard James's voice drifting out clearly. 3, maybe 4 more months, he was saying. He must have been on the phone. The old man's trusting, no problem there. Once we stage a health scare, maybe a heart attack or something, he'll definitely sign the power of attorney. Then the house is ours. $840,000 clear profit once we sell. I stopped walking, my hand on the truck door. Danielle's doing fine, keeping him off balance, James continued. Yeah, he suspects nothing. Easiest mark I've worked. The world tilted. My chest went tight, but not from any heart attack, from pure cold rage. I stood there in my own driveway, listening to my son-in-law discuss defrauding me like I was just another transaction. And my daughter, my Danielle, was in on it. Edith's words came back. Run from that monster. She hadn't been confused at all. She'd tried to warn me. I got my phone from the truck, moved quietly, didn't let them know I'd heard. Went upstairs to my room. Sat on the bed I'd shared with my wife before cancer took her, in the house we'd built our life in, and stared at the wall. 37 years fighting fires taught me something important. The most dangerous moment isn't when the flames are visible. It's when the fire's burning hidden in the walls, gathering strength, waiting to explode. James thought I was the easy mark, the trusting old man. He had no idea what he'd just ignited. I wasn't running anywhere. This was my house, my life. And if James Turner wanted to play with fire, well, I'd spent 4 decades learning exactly how to control the burn. I picked up my phone and started making a list. First item, find Edith Palmer. Second, find out who James Turner really was. The prey was about to become the predator, and James had just handed me the match. 10 days had passed since James's discharge. 10 days of watching him move through my house like he owned it, which apparently he thought he soon would. $840,000. The number kept cycling through my mind. I played the part well, smiled at breakfast, asked how his shoulder felt. He'd kept the sling for another week, milking the sympathy. Nodded when Danielle suggested I take it easy on the stairs. Every interaction felt like performance art, and I was giving the show of my life. The morning of his final day wearing the sling, I watched from the kitchen as he answered his phone in the living room. His injured arm came out of the sling immediately, gesturing animatedly as he talked. The moment he heard footsteps, Danielle coming downstairs, the arm went right back in, smooth as silk. "Still bothering you?" she asked, kissing his cheek. "Yeah, but getting better." He winced for effect. I turned back to my coffee before they could see my expression. The audacity was almost impressive. Later that day, Danielle found me in the garage, working on the oak chair. "Dad, we need to talk about some practical things." "Such as?" "Your documents. The deed to the house, your will, bank accounts. Have you updated any of that recently?" I set down my sandpaper. Why would I need to? "Well, you're not getting younger. What if something happens? James knows a great estate attorney. We could set up a meeting, make sure everything's in order." "Make sure everything's in order for who?" She blinked. "For everyone. For you. For your peace of mind." "I appreciate the concern," I said carefully, "but I'll handle my own affairs." Her face tightened. "Dad, you're being stubborn. We're just trying to help." "I understand." I picked up the sandpaper again. "And I said I'll handle it." She left without another word, her footsteps sharp on the concrete. That evening, James tried a different approach. Found me in the backyard watering the tomato plants. "Martin, can we talk man to man?" "Sure." "Danielle's worried about you." "So am I." He leaned against the fence, picture of casual concern. "You're getting up there in years. This house, maintaining it alone, it's a lot." "I managed 37 years of running into burning buildings," I said. "I think I can handle mowing the lawn." Of course. "But what about when you can't? What's your plan?" I turned off the hose, looked at him directly. "What's your plan, James?" Something flickered in his eyes. Calculation. "My plan is to make sure Danielle's father is taken care of." "That's kind of you." I coiled the hose slowly. "But I'm not your responsibility." "Your family." The word felt like ash in my mouth. Family. I'd believed that once. "I'll keep that in mind," I said, heading toward the house. That night, I couldn't sleep. Lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle. Around 2 a.m, I heard voices downstairs. Quiet, but urgent. I moved to the top of the stairs, careful to avoid the creaky third step. "Pushing too hard." Danielle's voice. "He's getting suspicious." "He's not suspicious. He's stubborn. There's a difference." James sounded irritated. "We need to move faster. Every day we wait is another day something could go wrong." "Like what?" "Like him actually updating his will with some random attorney instead of our guy. Like him deciding to sell the house himself and move to Florida. Like any number of things that would screw up 4 years of work." 4 years of work, since before they got married. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. "What do you want me to do?" Danielle asked. "Keep pushing. The health angle. Make him feel vulnerable. Older than he is. Once he starts doubting himself, the rest is easy." "And if he still refuses?" A pause. When James spoke again, his voice was colder. "Then we move to plan B." "Which is?" "Don't worry about it. Just keep doing your part. I heard movement, retreated silently to my room, sat on the edge of the bed, hands shaking with rage I couldn't release. Plan B. What was Plan B? The next morning I made a decision. James wanted to discharge from the hospital, and today was Edith's last day there too. I arrived early, brought her coffee one final time. You're a good man, Martin Lawrence, she said, sipping gratefully. In 40 years of social work, I learned to spot the good ones. They're rarer than you'd think. I have something to ask you. Anything. When you said that thing yesterday about running from the monster, did you mean James? She set down her coffee cup, looked at me with those sharp eyes. Who else would I mean? How did you know? Same way I knew about Trevor, same way I knew about the Henderson's son, and the Williams' granddaughter, and a dozen others over the years. Patterns. The way he looks at you when you're not watching. The way your daughter defers to him. The performance of concern that never reaches his eyes. She paused. I've seen it before, Martin. I know how it ends. How does it end? However they need it to. Sometimes it's manipulation into signing documents. Sometimes it's isolation until you're completely dependent. Sometimes, she trailed off. Sometimes what? Sometimes the old person has an accident, a fall, wrong medication. You'd be surprised how many elderly people die of seemingly natural causes when there's money involved. My blood went cold. Plan B. Edith reached out, gripped my hand. Run from that monster before it's too late. But I wasn't running, not anymore. That evening I came home late on purpose, told them I'd been at Home Depot, needed supplies for a project. Pulled into the driveway around 8, sat in my truck for a moment. The living room window was open. Portland was having an unusual warm spell. I heard James's voice talking on the phone again. 3, maybe 4 more months, he was saying. The old man's trusting, completely clueless. Once we stage some kind of health crisis, a heart attack symptoms or something, he'll sign the power of attorney, no question. After that, the house is ours. $840,000 in clear profit once we flip it. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. Danielle's playing her part perfectly, James continued. Keeps him off balance, makes him question himself. Yeah, easiest mark I've worked in years. These old firefighter types, they're all the same. Think they're invincible. Never see it coming until it's too late? He laughed. Actually laughed. No criminal record, nothing. I'm smarter than that. The California and Washington situations, those people never had proof. This time's even cleaner. Everything legal on paper. Just a concerned son-in-law helping his aging father-in-law with estate planning. I sat there in my truck, in my own driveway, listening to my daughter's husband discuss defrauding me like I was livestock heading to slaughter. Every word confirmed what Edith had warned me about. Every word stoked the fire building in my chest. Gotta go, James said. Yeah, I'll update you next week. I waited until the light in the living room changed. He'd moved to the kitchen. Then I got out of the truck, slowly, quietly, grabbed my phone from the passenger seat where I'd deliberately left it earlier, went inside through the garage entrance. Martin, Danielle called from the kitchen. That you? Yeah, forgot my phone. Had to come back for it. I appeared in the kitchen doorway. Both of them looked completely normal. Danielle was chopping vegetables. James was reading something on his tablet. Sling finally discarded. The perfect picture of domestic tranquility. Find everything you needed at Home Depot? James asked. Everything and more, I said. That night, I barely slept again. But this time it wasn't from shock or fear. It was from planning. By morning, I knew exactly what I needed to do. First step, find Edith Palmer. The hospital wouldn't give me Edith's information directly, privacy laws. But a nurse I'd become friendly with during the week of visits mentioned the name of the assisted living facility, Rose Haven Care Center, about 20 minutes from my house. The next morning, I told Danielle and James I was going to the hardware store. Drove straight to Rose Haven instead. The facility was nicer than I expected. Well-maintained grounds, modern building, cheerful staff. The receptionist smiled when I asked for Edith Palmer. She mentioned she might have a visitor. Room 142, second floor, elevators down that hall. Edith's room was small but comfortable. She sat in an armchair by the window, reading. Her face lit up when she saw me. I knew you'd come, she said. You were right. About everything. Sit down. Tell me. I told her about the phone conversation, about James discussing me like a business transaction, about 4 years of calculated manipulation, about Plan B. She listened without interruption, her expression growing grimmer. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. What are you going to do? She finally asked. I don't know yet. That's why I'm here. You dealt with this before. What did you do? I made mistakes, she said bluntly. I trusted the police to care. I believed my lawyer when he said we had enough evidence. I thought the system would protect me. By the time I learned better, Trevor had already cleaned me out. So what should I do differently? She leaned forward. Document everything, get proof, and don't trust anyone who hasn't earned it through action, not words. Trevor was good with words too. I need to know more about James, his real history. Then hire someone to find out, a private investigator. I don't know any private investigators. Neither did I, but I found one in the phone book back then. You have the internet now. It's even easier. She paused. It'll cost money. I have money. Then spend it. Because whatever you spend on investigation is nothing compared to what he'll take if you don't. I left Rose Haven with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in months. Stopped at a coffee shop, pulled out my phone, searched for private investigators in Portland. Found several. Read reviews. Narrowed it down to 2. One had an office downtown. Richard Cole, former Portland PD detective, now private investigation, specialized in fraud cases, background checks, asset searches, 23 years experience, 5-star ratings. I called the number. A man answered on the second ring. Cole Investigations. Mr. Cole, my name is Martin Lawrence. I need help investigating someone. Come to my office. When can you be here? This afternoon? 2 o'clock. Bring whatever documentation you have. His office was on the 5th floor of a building on Washington Street. Small but professional. Cole himself was around 50. Solid build. Sharp eyes that assessed me immediately. Tell me the situation, he said once we'd settled into chairs. I told him everything. He took notes, asked clarifying questions, never interrupted unnecessarily. How long have they lived with you? He asked. 2 years. And before that, did you know James well? Thought I did. Now I'm not sure I knew him at all. Cole leaned back. Background checks aren't cheap. Full workup. Real name, criminal history, credit check, previous addresses, employment verification, asset search. You're looking at $5,000 to start. Could be more if we find complicated histories. $5,000. I thought about $840,000. Do it. I'll need some basic information. Full name as you know it. Date of birth if you have it. Social security number. I don't have his social security number. Photo? I pulled up one from my phone. Danielle and James at last year's Christmas dinner. Cole studied it. Send that to my email. I'll start tomorrow. Usually takes 2 to 3 weeks for a comprehensive background check. That long? I'm thorough. You want fast or you want right? I want right. He smiled slightly. Good. I'll call when I have something. I paid half up front, $2,500. Walked out feeling like I'd actually done something instead of just reacting. When I got home, James and Danielle were in the kitchen. Dad, where have you been? Danielle asked. You said hardware store. That was 4 hours ago. Ran into an old friend. Got coffee. Lost track of time. Which friend? The question felt like an interrogation. Bob Hendricks. Worked 3rd Battalion with me. The lie came easily. Too easily. Well, lunch is ready if you're hungry, she said. Over the next week, they turned up the pressure. Danielle mentioned a senior living community she'd toured just out of curiosity. James left brochures about estate planning on the kitchen counter. They suggested I see a doctor about my memory. Claimed I'd been forgetting things, getting confused. I'm fine, I said. Dad, you forgot about our dinner plans last week. We didn't have dinner plans last week. See? That's exactly what I'm talking about. She exchanged a look with James. It was gaslighting. Classic manipulation. Make me doubt my own mind. I recognized it now for what it was. I played along. Started asking them to remind me of things I remembered perfectly well. Pretended to struggle with names I knew cold. Let them think it was working. Meanwhile, I waited for Richard Cole to call. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon, 13 days after I'd hired him. Mr. Lawrence, we need to talk. Can you come to my office? When? As soon as possible. I made an excuse about doctor's appointment, drove downtown. Cole's expression when I entered his office told me he'd found something significant. "Sit down," he said. He laid out 3 folders on his desk. "Your son-in-law has been very careful, but not careful enough." "What did you find?" "James Turner isn't his real name. Well, it is, but not his whole name. He's James Mitchell Turner. Uses the middle name selectively. Makes background checks harder to connect." He opened the first folder. 3 similar situations in the past 8 years. California, Washington, and Oregon before he met your daughter. All involved elderly homeowners. All cases investigated but never prosecuted. Victims couldn't prove intent, nor died before cases went to trial. My hands clenched. Died? 1 heart attack, 1 fall downstairs, 1 medication interaction. All ruled natural or accidental. But the timing was convenient. Each happened right before the victim was going to change their estate documents. "You're saying he killed them?" "I'm saying the coincidences are suspicious, but nothing's provable. That's how he operates. Stays just clean enough." He opened the second folder. His finances are interesting. Every few years, a big influx of cash. 80,000 here, 120,000 there. Always explained as inheritance or property sales. Always technically legal. "And the accident? The one that put him in the hospital?" Cole smiled without humor. "Traffic camera footage shows him deliberately steering into a parking structure support column. Low speed, calculated impact. Just enough to justify medical attention and sympathy. It's insurance fraud, but proving intent would be difficult." The third folder contained photographs. James with other people, other elderly people. I tracked down 2 of the previous victims' families, showed them James's photo. Both confirmed he'd been involved with their relatives shortly before they lost money or property. I stared at the evidence spread across Cole's desk. James wasn't just a con artist. He was a predator with a system. "What do I do with this?" I asked. "That depends on what you want. Criminal prosecution would be tough. Everything's circumstantial. But civil action, protecting your assets, preparing for if he makes a move, that I can help you with. I need a lawyer. I know one. Lois Simpson, specializes in elder financial abuse. She's tough, smart, and she hates people like your son-in-law." He made the call while I sat there. Set up a meeting for that afternoon. Lois Simpson's office was in the Pearl District, all glass and steel. She was in her mid-50s, gray hair pulled back, eyes that missed nothing. Cole had sent her the files already. She'd reviewed them before I arrived. "Mr. Lawrence," she said, shaking my hand. "Richard's told me about your situation. I'm sorry you're going through this. Can you help?" "Yes, but it'll require you to trust me completely and follow my instructions exactly." "What kind of instructions?" She opened her own folder. "We're going to build a trap. Legal, documented, impossible for him to escape. But it means letting him think he's winning for a while longer." "How long?" "As long as it takes to gather enough evidence for criminal charges. Not just civil. I want him in prison, not just out of your house." I thought about the 3 dead people in Cole's report, about Plan B, about Danielle being complicit, or maybe just blind. "Tell me what to do," I said. She smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone about to go to war. "First," she said, "we're going to set up a living trust. Today. Get your house out of your personal name before James makes his move. Then we're going to let him push for power of attorney while we document every manipulation. And when he finally shows his hand completely, what happens? Then we show him what happens when you try to burn down a firefighter's house." I left her office 3 hours later with a plan. A real plan. Not revenge, justice. Legal, thorough, devastating justice. When I got home, James was waiting. "Martin, we need to talk about your health." "Oh?" I was calm now. Centered. Dangerous. "Danielle and I think you should see a specialist. Get checked out. At your age, you can't be too careful." "You're probably right," I said, watching his eyes light up. "Great. I'll make some calls. Find you the best cardiologist." "I'll handle it," I interrupted. "But thank you for the concern. It means a lot." He blinked, thrown by my agreement. "In fact," I continued, "maybe we should talk about that estate planning too. Get everything organized. Like you said, I'm not getting any younger." His smile was pure victory. "That's really wise, Martin. Really wise. I smiled back. Let him see what he wanted to see. A foolish old man finally giving in. What he didn't see was the predator behind the mask, already circling, already closing in. And that's when I understood exactly how to repay them for every manipulation, every lie, every moment they'd made me doubt myself in my own home. They wanted to play with fire. Time to show them what real fire looked like. 2 weeks crawled by. 14 days of playing the cooperative fool while Richard Cole dug into James's past, and Lois Simpson constructed her a legal fortress around my assets. The morning Cole called again, I was in the garage pretending to organize tools, while James and Danielle were both out. Shopping for new furniture, they'd said. For the house. My house. The audacity still amazed me. Mr. Lawrence, I have your report. You need to see this in person. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Cole's office felt different this time. He'd laid out more folders, more photographs, more evidence of James's systematic predation. I sat down, and he didn't waste time on pleasantries. James Mitchell Turner is a professional, Cole began, opening the thickest folder. And I mean professional in the worst possible way. I found 5 cases, not 3. 5 elderly victims over the past 12 years. He spread out photographs. Faces of people who'd trusted the wrong person. Dorothy Richardson, San Diego, lost her home worth $420,000. Harvey Chen, Sacramento, $360,000 in savings gone. Margaret Finley, Tacoma. How many died? I interrupted. Cole's jaw tightened. 3. Natural causes on paper. Heart attack, accidental fall, medication error. All within days of attempting to change their legal documents or contact authorities. I stared at the photographs. These could have been me. Still could be if I wasn't careful. The traffic accident, I said. You're certain it was staged. Watch this. He turned his laptop toward me, played traffic camera footage. There was James's car approaching the parking structure slowly. No other vehicles nearby. He steered deliberately into the support column. Not a collision, more like a careful bump. The car barely crumpled. He sat there for 30 seconds before getting out, checking his surroundings, then returning to the car and slumping over the wheel. He waited to make sure no one saw him stage it, Cole explained, then positioned himself like he'd been hit hard, called it in himself, said another car fled the scene. No witnesses, no other vehicle. Insurance paid out $12,000 for medical and repairs. Can we use this? In combination with everything else? Absolutely. But here's what's really interesting. He opened another folder. I tracked his finances. Every 2 to 3 years, large deposits appear, always explainable on paper. Inheritance, property sale, business profit. But the timing matches the victims. He showed me a timeline. Dorothy Richardson's home sold in July 2013. James deposited $85,000 in August 2013. Harvey Chen's accounts emptied in March 2016. James deposited $72,000 in April 2016. He's smart, I said quietly. He was smart. He's getting sloppy. Danielle's name is on his current bank accounts. If we can prove conspiracy, she's implicated too. My stomach turned. My daughter, my little girl who used to believe I could fix anything. What about his real name situation? James Mitchell Turner is his legal name, but he alternates between using James Turner and Mitchell Turner, depending on the situation. Makes background checks harder to connect. When he met Danielle, he was James Turner, clean slate. Until now. Until now. Cole leaned back. I've shared everything with Detective Russell at Portland PD. He's interested, but says he needs active evidence of a crime in progress. Suspicions about past cases aren't enough. So we have to let him try? Yes, but with safeguards. That's where Miss Simpson comes in. I left Cole's office with the evidence files and drove straight to Lois Simpson's office. She was waiting, already reviewing digital copies Cole had sent. Your son-in-law is a piece of work, she said when I entered. That's one way to put it. Here's what we're going to do. She pulled out a legal pad covered in notes. The house is already in a living trust as of 2 days ago. I filed it quietly. James won't know unless he specifically searches property records, which he won't because he thinks he's in control. What does that mean exactly? It means the house isn't in your personal name anymore. It's held in the Martin Lawrence Revocable Living Trust. You're the trustee, You control it completely, but it's legally separate from your personal estate. If James gets power of attorney over you personally, he can't touch the trust. And if he tries, then we have proof of his intent to defraud. But we need more. We need him to show his hand completely. She outlined the plan. I would play along, appear to deteriorate mentally and physically. Let them push for power of attorney. Let them think they'd won. Meanwhile, Cole would document everything and Simpson would ensure every legal protection was ironclad. This requires you to be a good actor, she warned. Can you do that? I thought about 37 years of staying calm and burning buildings while people panicked around me. I can do that. Good. Because if you slip up, if James suspects we're onto him, he'll run, and we'll never get him. That evening I started the performance. At dinner I mentioned feeling tired more often, forgot the word for something simple, pretended I couldn't remember refrigerator, called it the cold box. James and Danielle exchanged glances. Dad, are you feeling okay? Danielle asked. Fine, just tired. What were we talking about? The dinner menu for tomorrow. Right, the menu. I rubbed my forehead. Sorry, sweetie. Long day. James's eyes gleamed. I saw the calculation there, pieces falling into place for him. Over the next week, I escalated carefully. Left the stove on once, on purpose, with a pot of water that would boil dry harmlessly. Danielle found it. Her concern seemed real, which made it worse. Dad, you could have burned the house down. I just forgot. I'm sorry. This is serious. Maybe we should talk to your doctor. Maybe you're right. I scheduled an appointment with my regular physician, Dr. Patricia Wells. I'd called her ahead of time, explained the situation privately. She was horrified, but agreed to help. The appointment was on a Friday. James insisted on coming. Dr. Wells examined me thoroughly, asked standard cognitive questions. I answered most correctly, but hesitated strategically on a few. Mr. Lawrence, she said seriously, I'm seeing some concerning signs. Memory lapses, confusion. I'd like to run some tests, but in the meantime, you should consider having someone help manage your daily affairs. Like what? I asked, playing confused. Perhaps a family member could handle finances, medications, appointments. Someone you trust. James practically vibrated with excitement beside me. I'll think about it, I said. In the parking lot, James was solicitous. Martin, Dr. Wells is right. Let us help. Danielle can handle the bills. Make sure everything's organized. No pressure, just support. I don't want to be a burden. You're not a burden. You're family. The word tasted like poison. The following Tuesday, I had my accident. Carefully planned, meticulously staged. I waited until late morning when both James and Danielle were home. Positioned myself near the kitchen counter where I'd spilled a small amount of water earlier. Then I slipped. I controlled the fall, landed heavily but safely on my hip, let out a convincing groan. Lay there until I heard footsteps running. Dad! Danielle's voice genuinely frightened. Martin! James, concerned, but I caught that flash in his eyes. Opportunity. I'm okay, I said, trying to sit up. Just slipped. Don't move. James already had his phone out. I'm calling an ambulance. That's not necessary. You hit your head. We're not taking chances. I hadn't hit my head, but I didn't argue. This was exactly what Lois and I had planned. The ambulance arrived. Paramedics checked me over, insisted on taking me to the hospital for observation given my age. James and Danielle followed in their car. At the emergency room, the doctors found nothing seriously wrong. Mild bruising, no concussion. But I complained of chest tightness, shortness of breath. They ran cardiac tests. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a cardiologist I'd never met, but who Cole had connected me with, someone who understood elder abuse, reviewed my results. She played her part perfectly. Mr. Lawrence, your tests show some irregularities. Nothing immediately dangerous, but concerning, given your age and stress levels. I'm diagnosing you with suspected unstable angina. You'll need to avoid physical exertion, manage stress, and follow up regularly. The diagnosis went into my medical record, official documentation of declining health. Danielle looked worried. James looked triumphant. They took me home that evening. I moved slowly, played up the soreness, let them help me to my room like I was fragile. That night, lying in bed, I heard them talking in the hallway. Danielle's voice was uncertain. Maybe we're being too pushy. He seems really fragile. This is exactly why we need to help him, James replied smoothly. He needs protection, Danielle, from himself. Tomorrow I'm going to talk to him about the power of attorney again. It's time. Are you sure? I'm sure. Trust me. The next morning, James brought me coffee in bed. The gesture would have been touching if I didn't know what it really meant. Martin, we need to talk about your future. My future? After yesterday, after what Dr. Mitchell said, Danielle and I think it's time to make things official. Power of attorney. It's just paperwork, but it means if something happens, we can help you without complications. I let silence hang for a moment. I don't know, James. I understand it's scary, but think about it. What if you have another fall? What if next time it's serious? Who's going to pay your bills, handle the house, make medical decisions? Danielle would. Exactly. That's what power of attorney does. It lets her help you legally. I looked at him, saw the predator behind the concerned expression. Can I think about it? His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Of course. Take your time. But Martin, don't wait too long. I waited 3 days. Let them sweat. Let James push harder each day. Finally, that Friday morning, I came downstairs and announced I was ready. Ready for what, Dad? Danielle asked. The power of attorney thing. James is right. I need help. The look that passed between them was electric. Pure victory. James actually smiled. Not his usual careful smile, but something genuine and greedy. That's wonderful, Martin, he said. Really wise. I'll call the attorney I know, set up an appointment. Already did, I said. Tuesday afternoon. I want Danielle to have it. She's my daughter. I trust her. Danielle's eyes filled with tears. Real tears. For a moment I almost broke, almost told her everything. But then she looked at James, and he squeezed her hand, and I remembered whose side she'd chosen. Thank you, Dad, she whispered. That weekend was surreal. James was almost nice. Danielle was attentive. They were celebrating a victory they thought they'd won. Monday, I met with Lois Simpson one final time before the Tuesday appointment. Everything's in place, she confirmed. The living trust is untouchable. The power of attorney they'll get tomorrow is essentially worthless for their purposes, but they won't know that until they try to use it. And the other documents? Filed and waiting. The moment James makes a move on the house, we trigger everything. How long? Weeks, maybe a month. Cole says to be patient. Patience. I'd been patient for 2 years, watching them manipulate my daughter and plot against me. I could be patient a little longer. Tuesday arrived. We went to the attorney James had selected, Nathan Price, a slick-looking man in his 40s with an office in a strip mall. Not the kind of place I'd expect for serious estate planning, but that was the point. This was James's guy. Price went through the documents. Power of attorney giving Danielle control over my finances, medical decisions, property transactions, a new will leaving everything to her. This gives your daughter complete authority to act on your behalf, Price explained. Is that your wish? I looked at Danielle, at James standing behind her, hand on her shoulder. Yes, I said. It's what I want. I signed. Danielle signed as attorney, in fact. James witnessed, barely containing his excitement. When we left the office, James was practically floating. This is good, Martin. Really good. Now Danielle can handle everything, take that stress off your shoulders. Thank you both, I said quietly, for caring. That evening they went out to dinner. A celebration, though they didn't say that explicitly. I stayed home, called Lois. It's done, I said. Good. Now we wait. The waiting was harder than I expected. Over the next week, James and Danielle's behavior shifted dramatically. The pretense of warmth evaporated. They were courteous, but distant. I'd served my purpose. I caught them measuring windows in the living room one afternoon. What are you doing? Oh, just planning some updates, Danielle said casually. The house could use modernizing. It's fine the way it is. Well, with the power of attorney, we can handle maintenance now. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about my own house. I bit my tongue. James started spending more time on his laptop, taking calls in the backyard where he thought I couldn't hear. I caught fragments. Property assessment, quick sale, 60 days maximum. They were already planning to sell, even faster than I'd expected. 2 weeks after signing the power of attorney, I came downstairs to find James in my home office. He'd pulled out files, my property deed, tax records, insurance papers. "What are you doing?" I asked. He didn't even look guilty. "Just organizing your documents, making sure everything's in order." "Those are private." "Martin, I'm helping Danielle manage your affairs, remember? You gave us permission." The casual dismissal in his tone made my blood boil, but I kept my voice level. "Please ask before going through my things." Sure. He didn't sound sorry at all. That night, I called Richard Cole. "They're moving faster than expected. I'm documenting everything. Just hold steady." "How much longer?" "Soon. Detective Russell needs one more piece. Proof of intent to defraud. The documents themselves aren't enough. We need them to actually try selling the house or transferring money." "They're getting ready to." "I know. My contact at the county recorder's office will alert me the moment they file anything. When they do, everything triggers." 3 days later, everything changed. I was in my workshop when I heard raised voices from the house. Angry voices. James was shouting. I walked in through the garage. James stood in the kitchen, face red, holding papers. Danielle looked confused beside him. "What's wrong?" I asked innocently. James turned on me. The mask was completely gone. Pure rage twisted his features. "What is this?" "What's what?" "This." He shook the papers. "I tried to file a quitclaim deed today. Transfer the house to Danielle's name for estate planning purposes. And the county clerk says it's not possible because the property isn't in your name anymore." I let confusion cross my face. "What do you mean?" "The house is in some trust. The Martin Lawrence Revocable Living Trust." "When did you do this?" Danielle looked between us. "Dad, what's he talking about?" I don't remember." I played it perfectly confused. "My attorney mentioned something about a trust, but I thought—" "Your attorney?" James's voice was dangerous. "What attorney? Nathan Price didn't mention any trust." "Not Nathan Price. Lois Simpson. She handles my estate." I watched James's face go through a fascinating transformation. Confusion to realization to absolute fury. His hands actually trembled holding those papers. His jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscles jumping. "When?" he demanded. "When did you set up this trust?" I blinked slowly, like I was trying to remember. "Beginning of July, I think." Lois said it was important for tax purposes. "Beginning of July?" His voice was flat. "Before the power of attorney?" "I suppose so. Is that a problem?" He couldn't speak, actually couldn't form words. His face had gone from red to a kind of mottled purple. Danielle touched his arm, and he jerked away. "James, what's going on?" she asked. "What's going on," he said slowly, precisely, "is that your father has locked the house in a trust that can't be touched by power of attorney. Which means we can't—" He stopped himself. "Can't what?" I asked gently. His eyes met mine, and in that moment he knew that I knew that everything had been a performance. The confusion on my face evaporated, replaced with something cold and hard. "Can't help you manage it properly," he finished, but the words sounded hollow. I smiled, not a warm smile. "That's kind of you, James, but the trust manages itself just fine." He stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. The weak old man he'd been manipulating for months had vanished, and something much more dangerous stood in its place. "We need to talk," he said. "Privately." "I don't think so." "Martin." "No," I said it firmly. "This is my house, James. Whatever you need to say, you can say in front of Danielle." Danielle looked between us, bewildered and frightened. "Someone please tell me what's happening." James grabbed his jacket. "I need air." He walked out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. Danielle turned to me. "Dad, what just happened?" I looked at my daughter, at the woman who'd helped her husband plan to steal everything from me. "I protected myself," I said quietly. "That's what happened." Her face went pale. "From what?" "Ask your husband, Danielle." I walked away, leaving her standing there in the kitchen of my house, the house she and James would never have. Behind me, I heard her start to cry. The house was silent that night. James didn't come home. Danielle stayed in their bedroom, door closed. I sat in my workshop until past midnight, running sandpaper over the oak chair with methodical strokes. thinking about what came next. Around 1 in the morning, my phone buzzed. Richard Cole. "Just got a call from my contact at the county recorder's office," he said. "James attempted to file a quitclaim deed this morning. Transfer of property from you to Danielle. When they rejected it due to the trust, he became verbally aggressive, demanded to speak to supervisors. Made quite a scene." "Good. How are you holding up?" "Fine. Better than fine, actually. He's going to come at you harder now. He knows you're not the confused old man he thought." "Let him come. I'm ready." The next morning, James appeared at breakfast. His expression was carefully neutral, but I could see the tension in his jaw, the calculation in his eyes. "Martin, we need to discuss this trust situation." "What about it? You never mentioned it. When did you set that up?" I poured myself coffee slowly. "Early July. Lois Simpson, my attorney, recommended it for tax purposes." "Lois Simpson," he said the name like it tasted bad. "And when were you planning to tell us?" "Tell you what?" "That you'd put the house beyond our reach." The words came out sharper than he intended. He caught himself, modulated his tone. "Beyond our ability to help you manage it, I mean. The trust manages itself. You don't need to worry about it." Danielle entered the kitchen, eyes red from crying. She looked between us uncertainly. "What's going on?" "Your father has created some complications," James said. "Legal complications that make it difficult for us to help him." "I don't understand." "The house is in a trust," I explained, "which means even with power of attorney, you can't make decisions about it. It's protected." "Protected from what?" Her voice was small. I looked at her directly. "From anyone who might have intentions that aren't in my best interest." James's face went hard. "Are you suggesting—" "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm stating facts. The house is protected. That's all." The silence stretched thin and dangerous. "Well," James said, finally standing, "I suppose we'll need to consult with our own attorney about this. Make sure everything's properly documented." "You do that." He left. Danielle lingered, looking at me with something between confusion and fear. "Dad, what's really happening?" "You already know, Danielle. You've known for a while." "I don't—" "Ask yourself why James is so upset about a trust that's supposed to protect my assets. Ask yourself why he's so concerned about helping me when I'm perfectly capable of managing my own affairs." I paused. "Ask yourself what you've been helping him do." She flinched like I'd slapped her. "I was trying to help you." "Were you? Or were you trying to help James get his hands on $840,000? Her face went white. "How did you—" "I know everything, Danielle. Everything." She stood frozen for a moment, then fled upstairs. I heard her bedroom door close. Over the following week, the atmosphere in the house became toxic. James and Danielle barely spoke to me except when necessary. I caught them having urgent, whispered conversations that stopped when I entered rooms. James spent hours on his laptop, making phone calls behind closed doors. Richard Cole kept me updated. He's looking for legal loopholes. Contacted 3 different attorneys about breaking the trust. They all told him the same thing. It's airtight. What's his next move? That's what worries me. Desperate people do desperate things. I started being more careful. Locked my bedroom door at night. Prepared my own meals. Watched my back. One evening, I deliberately left a letter from Lois Simpson on the kitchen counter. The envelope was marked with her firm's name and address. I positioned it where James would see it when he came down for his usual late-night kitchen raid. I waited in the darkness of the hallway. Sure enough, around midnight, James appeared. He saw the envelope immediately, glanced around to make sure he was alone, and opened it. I watched from the shadows as he read the contents, a letter discussing property reassessment values, specifically mentioning $840,000. His reaction was beautiful in its fury. His hands actually trembled holding the paper. He crumpled it, uncramped it, read it again like the words might change. His face went through a spectacular range of colors. Red, purple, almost gray. He knew, I heard him mutter. The whole time he knew the value. He knew everything. He pulled out his phone, dialed. Paced while he waited for an answer. "We have a problem," he said when someone picked up. "The old man's been playing us. He knows about the value, he's got lawyers involved, and the trust makes everything we've done useless." Pause. "I don't know. Let me think." He ended the call, stood there breathing hard. I could almost see his mind working. calculating, searching for angles. Then he straightened, and something shifted in his expression, something cold and determined. He threw the letter in the trash and went back upstairs. The next morning, Danielle approached me with concern that felt rehearsed. "Dad, you don't look well. Maybe you should see Dr. Wells again." "I feel fine." "You look pale. Tired. James and I think maybe you need more intensive care. There's a wonderful assisted living facility we toured." "No." "Dad, please, we're worried about you." I said no, Danielle. Her expression hardened. "You're being unreasonable. We have power of attorney. We can make medical decisions for you if you're not capable." "I'm perfectly capable. And if you try to use that power of attorney against my wishes, I'll have it revoked so fast your head will spin." She stepped back, shocked. I'd never spoken to her like that before. "You're not yourself," she said quietly. "No, I'm finally myself again. I stopped playing the role you and James needed me to play." James appeared in the doorway. "Is there a problem?" "Your wife thinks I need to go to assisted living. I disagree. It's just a suggestion for your own good." "Everything you've done has been for my own good, hasn't it, James? The concern, the help, the legal documents, all for my own good." He smiled without warmth. "Careful, Martin. You're starting to sound paranoid. That's a symptom of cognitive decline, you know." The gaslighting was blatant now, no pretense. "Get out," I said quietly. "Excuse me?" "Both of you, get out of my house." "Your house?" James laughed. "According to the deed, which is in that trust you're so proud of, this is the Martin Lawrence Revocable Living Trust's house. You're just the trustee, and trustees can be replaced if they're mentally incompetent." It was a bluff, a bad one, but it showed how desperate he was getting. "Try it," I said. "See what happens." We stood there, 3 people locked in a silent war. Then James smiled again, a dangerous smile. "We'll see, Martin. We'll see." The next few days were tense. James became overly solicitous, offering to help with things I didn't need help with, making me tea, suggesting we order dinner from my favorite restaurant. The shift was so obvious it was almost insulting. I didn't trust any of it. The following evening, James announced he'd ordered Thai food for dinner, my favorite. "Peace offering," he said. "Things have been too tense. We're family. We should act like it." Danielle seemed genuinely hopeful. "That sounds nice, Dad. Will you join us?" The food arrived. James set the table, served the dishes. Pad Thai for me, green curry for them. We sat down like a normal family having dinner. I watched them eat for a moment. Watched James carefully not watching me. Watched Danielle picking at her food, glancing between us nervously. Something felt wrong. "Actually," I said, pushing back my chair, "I'm not very hungry. I think I'll just have some toast." James's expression flickered. "The food's already here, paid for. I appreciate it, but my stomach's been off today." "Martin, just eat." His voice had an edge. I said no. I stood, took my plate to the counter, scraped the pad thai into a container. "I'll have it for lunch tomorrow." James's jaw was tight, but he said nothing. I made myself toast, ate it standing at the counter, then excused myself to my workshop. 2 hours later, my phone rang. Richard Cole again. "Can you talk?" "Yes." "I need you to be very careful. I've been looking into James's recent activities. He made a purchase 3 days ago at a pharmacy. Prescription sleep aid, Ambien." My blood went cold. "He doesn't have insomnia." "No, he doesn't." "Martin, I think he might try to drug you. Create a medical emergency that would justify putting you in a facility." I thought about the untouched dinner upstairs, about James's insistence that I eat. "I think he already tried." "What?" I explained about dinner. Cole swore. "Where's the food now?" "Refrigerator. Sealed container." "Don't let anyone touch it. I'm sending someone to collect it. We'll get it tested." "How fast can you get results?" "If I push?" "Tomorrow afternoon. Can you stay safe until then?" "I'll manage." I locked my workshop door, waited. Around 11, I heard footsteps outside, a soft knock. "Dad?" Danielle's voice. "Are you okay?" "Fine, just working." "You've been down here for hours. We're worried." I said I'm fine. Silence, then footsteps retreating. I stayed in the workshop all night, dozed fitfully in my work chair. At dawn, I went upstairs. The house was quiet. I checked the refrigerator. The container with the pad thai was still there, undisturbed. I called Cole. "Coming to get it now," he said. He arrived 20 minutes later, dressed casually like he was just visiting. I handed him the container in a plastic bag. He left without anyone else seeing. That afternoon, my phone rang. "Martin, sit down." "What did you find?" "Ambien. 50 milligrams in the pad thai. That's 5 times the maximum therapeutic dose for someone your age. It wouldn't kill you, but it would have hospitalized you. Made you seem confused, disoriented, given them ammunition to claim you're mentally incompetent." I gripped the phone. "Can we use this?" "Absolutely. This is attempted poisoning. This is criminal. I'm contacting Detective Russell right now." Wait. Wait? I want to catch him trying again. Once might be a mistake, might be hard to prove. But if he tries twice... Martin, you're playing with fire. What if next time he uses more? I'll be careful, but I want him dead to rights. No possibility of claiming it was accidental. Cole was quiet for a moment. "Okay, but we're documenting everything, and you're not eating or drinking anything they prepare." "Nothing." "Agreed." That evening I acted normally. Quieter than usual, maybe. A little shaky, like someone recovering from a stomach bug. James watched me like a hawk. "Feeling better?" "Not really. Didn't sleep well." "Maybe you should see Dr. Wells." "Maybe." The next day I stayed close to my bedroom. Claimed I was feeling worse. Let them hear me coughing, fake but convincing. Danielle brought me soup for lunch. "You need to eat something, Dad." I looked at the soup. Chicken noodle. Steam rising. "Thanks, sweetie. I'll have it later." "Please eat it while it's hot." "I will, just need to rest a bit first." She hesitated, then left. I waited until I heard her go downstairs, then poured the soup into a jar, sealed it, hid it in my closet. Called Cole. "Another sample for you." 2 days later, the results came back. Ambien again. 40 milligrams this time. "He's escalating," Cole said. "We need to move now." "Set up the meeting with Detective Russell. It's time." The meeting happened the following afternoon at Lois Simpson's office. Detective Kevin Russell from the Portland Police Bureau, a man I'd worked with on a volunteer fire police community program years ago, reviewed all the evidence. Cole's investigation files, the traffic camera footage of the staged accident, the financial records showing James's pattern, the poisoned food with lab results, Lois's documentation of the legal manipulation attempts. Russell looked grim. "This is enough for charges. Attempted fraud, forgery on the insurance claim, 2 counts of attempted poisoning. We can arrest him today." "No," I said. Everyone looked at me. "I want him to dig deeper. One more move. Let him think he's winning, then take him down when he's fully committed." Lois leaned forward. "Martin, that's dangerous." "I know, but I want there to be no doubt. No possibility of a plea bargain or reduced charges. I want everything." Russell studied me. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." "Then we'll need you to wear a wire. Record any threats or admissions, and the moment you feel unsafe, the moment, you call 911 and we come in." "Deal." We spent the next hour planning. Russell would have officers on standby. Cole would continue surveillance. Lois would prepare the legal documents for civil action alongside the criminal charges. When I left that office, I was walking into the endgame. That evening I told James and Danielle I'd decided they were right. I needed help, professional care. The relief on James's face was almost comical. "That's really wise, Martin." "I'm going to stay with a friend for a while," I continued. "Get some perspective. Figure out next steps." "A friend?" Suspicion crept into his voice. "Edith Palmer, the woman from the hospital. She has a spare room in her apartment." "That old woman?" "Martin, she can't take care of you. You need professional—" "I've made my decision. I'm leaving at the end of the week." I watched his mind work, watched him calculate. If I left the house, if I was staying with someone else, his window for action was closing fast. "Well," he said slowly, "if that's what you want. Though you should know, the house will need to be maintained. Maybe Danielle and I should stay here. Keep things running." There it was, the final move. "That seems reasonable," I said. His eyes gleamed. He thought he'd won. Thought that once I was gone, once he had the house to himself, he'd find a way to break the trust, to take what he wanted. He had no idea what was waiting for him. The trap was set. Now I just had to spring it. The week before I moved out felt surreal. James was almost pleasant, helping me pack boxes, offering to drive me to Edith's apartment. The performance was Academy Award worthy, if you didn't know what was really happening. Danielle was quieter. I caught her watching me sometimes with an expression I couldn't quite read. Guilt? Uncertainty? Maybe a flicker of the daughter I used to know, buried under whatever James had turned her into. The night before I left, I found her in the kitchen alone. "Dad," she said softly, "are you sure about this?" "About what?" "Leaving. Going to live with a stranger." "Edith's not a stranger. She's a friend. But this is your house. Your home." I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. "Is it, Danielle? Because for the past 2 years, it hasn't felt like my home. It's felt like a place where I'm tolerated, watched, managed." "That's not—" She stopped. Couldn't finish the lie. "I need space," I said. "Time to figure things out." She nodded, eyes glistening. For a moment I almost told her everything, almost warned her about what was coming. But she'd made her choice. Now she'd have to live with it. The next morning I loaded my truck with essentials. Clothes, personal items, my tools. James helped carry boxes, his smile never quite reaching his eyes. "We'll take good care of the place," he said as I climbed into the truck. "Don't worry about a thing." "I won't," I replied, because I wouldn't. The house was already protected. James just didn't know it yet. Edith's apartment was small but welcoming. She'd prepared the spare room, even put fresh flowers on the dresser. "Welcome home, Martin," she said. "Thanks for doing this." "Are you kidding? I've been bored out of my mind. This is the most excitement I've had in years." She grinned. "Besides, someone needs to watch the finale." I settled in. Called Richard Cole to confirm surveillance was in place. Called Lois Simpson to verify all legal documents were ready. Called Detective Russell to make sure his team was standing by. Everything was positioned. Now we just had to wait for James to make his move. It took 9 days. For over a week, James and Danielle had my house to themselves. I imagined them celebrating, planning, measuring for new furniture, enjoying their premature victory. Then on that 9th day, Cole called. "It's happening. James just arrived at a real estate office downtown. He's meeting with an agent." "Stay on him." 2 hours later, Cole called again. He tried to list the house, brought the power of attorney documents, explained he was managing affairs for his elderly father-in-law. The agent pulled up the property records and found the living trust, explained that power of attorney doesn't grant authority over trust property. James lost it, started yelling about incompetent county clerks, demanding to speak to managers, made a scene. The agent asked him to leave. I smiled. Where is he now? Heading to the county recorder's office. He's going to verify the trust filing himself. I could picture it. James in that government office requesting property records. The clerk printing out the living trust documentation dated early July, weeks before the power of attorney. Watching James's face as reality crystallized. The old man had outsmarted him. Cole called back 20 minutes later. He confirmed it, got copies of everything. He's in his car now, just sitting there. He looks broken. He's not broken yet. He's calculating. What do you think he'll do? Something desperate. Be ready. That evening, Edith and I made dinner together. She was remarkable for 81. Sharp, witty, more aware than most people half her age. We talked about her social work career, the patterns she'd seen in elder abuse cases. "They always follow the same playbook," she said. "Isolation, manipulation, legal maneuvering. Your James is textbook." "Not my James. Never was." "No, I suppose not." She paused. "What about Danielle? What about her? Do you think she knows about the poisoning?" I'd been thinking about that. No, I think James kept that part to himself. She knew about the fraud, the manipulation, but attempted poisoning. That crosses a line even she wouldn't have approved. Will you forgive her? I don't know. Maybe someday, but not yet. We cleaned up dinner, watched the news. Around 9, my phone buzzed. Cole again. "James is on the move. Left the house 20 minutes ago. He's heading your direction." My pulse quickened. "He's coming here?" "Looks like it. Want me to intercept?" "No. Let him come. Russell's team is ready?" "On standby. They can be there in 2 minutes." "Good. Tell them to wait for my signal." I hung up, looked at Edith. "He's coming." She stood remarkably composed. "Then let's give him a show." 10 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. Hard. Insistent. I opened it. James stood there, disheveled, eyes wild. He'd aged 5 years in 9 days. "Martin, we need to talk." "I don't think we do." "Please." The word sounded like it hurt. "5 minutes." I stepped aside. Let him in. He saw Edith sitting calmly in her chair, and something flickered across his face. Recognition, maybe, from the hospital. "James," she said pleasantly. "How lovely to see you again." He ignored her, focused on me. "The house? The trust? What the hell did you do?" "I protected my assets, like any reasonable person would." "You don't understand. We had plans? Danielle and I understand perfectly. I understand you married my daughter to get close to my property. I understand you've been manipulating me for years. I understand you tried to drug me. Twice." His face went white. I don't know what you're talking about." "Ambien. 50 milligrams in Thai food. 40 milligrams in soup. I have lab reports. Evidence. Would you like to see them?" He stared at me. The mask was completely gone. What remained was something feral and desperate. "You can't prove anything," he said, but his voice shook. "Actually, I can. Insurance fraud from your staged accident. Attempted fraud with the property. 2 counts of attempted poisoning. And that's just what we can prove from the past few months. Richard Cole found your previous victims. 5 of them. 3 dead." James went from white to gray. You hired a private investigator? Weeks ago, while you thought I was the confused old man you could manipulate." He started pacing, hands shaking. "This is insane. You're paranoid. Danielle needs to have you evaluated. Danielle has no authority over me, and neither do you." He stopped pacing, turned, and I saw the moment he broke. The moment desperation overtook calculation. "You owe me," he shouted. "I spent 4 years on this. 4 years planning, working, dealing with you and your boring stories about fighting fires. I earned that house. You earned nothing. You're a con artist who targeted an old man. But you picked the wrong old man." His hands clenched into fists. He took a step toward me. "You're going to sign that house over to Danielle. Right now. Or what, James? You'll hurt me? In front of a witness? In an apartment where the police are 1 phone call away?" He froze. "That's right," I said quietly. "They're waiting. Have been since you pulled into the parking lot. 1 call and they come through that door with an arrest warrant." He looked at me with pure hatred. "You think you've won, but Danielle will never forgive you for this. You'll lose your daughter." The words hit harder than I wanted to admit, but I kept my voice steady. "I lost her when she chose you over me, when she helped you plot to steal everything I built. At least this way she'll learn what you really are." James looked around wildly, like an animal in a trap. Then his eyes landed on Edith. "This is your fault," he snarled at her. "You poisoned him against me from the start." Edith smiled serenely. "I simply recognize what you were, dear. Takes 1 victim to know a predator." James lunged toward Edith. I moved faster than I had in years, stepping between them. "Don't." He stopped, breathing hard, realized what he'd almost done, how completely he'd lost control. "It's over, James," I said. "The only question now is whether you go quietly or in handcuffs. I want a lawyer. You'll get one, after you're arrested." I pulled out my phone, dialed the number Detective Russell had given me. "We're ready." Less than 90 seconds later, there was a professional knock at the door. I opened it. Russell stood there with 2 uniformed officers, warrant in hand. "James Mitchell Turner," Russell said, stepping inside. "You're under arrest for attempted fraud, forgery, and 2 counts of attempted poisoning." James's face went through a spectacular transformation. Denial to anger to fear to something like despair. It was beautiful and terrible to watch. "This is a mistake," he stammered. I didn't. "We have lab reports on 2 separate food samples containing Ambien," Russell continued, unmoved. "We have surveillance footage of your staged car accident. We have documentation of your attempted property fraud. And we have testimony from victims of your previous schemes in California and Washington." The officers moved to handcuff him. James tried to pull away, but they were professionals. Within seconds, he was restrained. "Martin, please," he begged, the manipulator's charm resurfacing for one last, desperate attempt. "Think about Danielle. Think about your daughter. You're destroying her life." I looked at him calmly. I spent 37 years running into burning buildings, James. I know how to tell the difference between real danger and smoke. You were never the fire. You were just smoke, drifting in through cracks, making everything hazy. But smoke disperses. Fire is what's left. His face crumpled, the full reality of his situation finally penetrating. His knees actually buckled. The officers had to hold him up. "Get him out of here," Russell said. They took him away. I watched through the window as they put him in the police car, saw his head drop forward in defeat, saw the moment he realized 4 years of planning had collapsed in one evening. Russell stayed behind. "We'll need your formal statement tomorrow, and I'll need to interview Danielle." "She didn't know about the poisoning," I said. "I'm sure of that." "Maybe. But she knew about the fraud attempt. She was complicit in manipulating you. We'll let the DA sort out charges." After Russell left, Edith and I sat in silence for a long moment. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Tired, angry, sad." I paused. "Satisfied." She nodded. "Justice usually feels that way." My phone rang. Danielle. I stared at her name on the screen, finger hovering over the answer button. "She needs to know," Edith said gently. I answered. "Dad," Danielle's voice was panicked. "The police just came to the house. They're asking about James. They said he was arrested. What's happening?" "He tried to threaten me. At Edith's apartment. The police were waiting." "Threaten you?" "Dad, that doesn't make sense. He was just going to talk to you about the house. He tried to drug me, Danielle. Twice. Put Ambien in my food. They have lab results. Evidence." Silence. Long enough that I thought she'd hung up. "That's not—" Her voice broke. "He wouldn't. He said it was just— we were just trying to help you plan for the future." "Did you know he was staging the car accident? Did you know about his previous victims? The elderly people he defrauded in California and Washington? The 3 who died?" "Stop," she was crying now. "Stop it. You're lying." "I wish I was, sweetheart. I really wish I was." "I don't believe you. James loves me. He wouldn't—" "James loves your access to $840,000. That's what he loves. Ask yourself, in 4 years of marriage, did he ever talk about having children, building a real future, or did every conversation somehow circle back to my house, my assets, my estate planning?" The silence stretched out. I could hear her breathing, ragged and uneven. "You chose him over me," I said quietly. "You helped him manipulate me. You suggested the senior home, pushed for the power of attorney, made me doubt myself in my own house. I know he led you into it, but you made choices, Danielle, and choices have consequences. I was trying to help. Were you? Or were you trying to get the house faster? Make sure your inheritance was secure?" She couldn't answer. The truth was there between us, ugly and undeniable. "The DA will decide what charges you face," I continued. "Detective Russell will want to talk to you. Get a lawyer, a real one, not whoever James had lined up." "Dad, please." "I love you, Danielle. I always will. You're my daughter. But I don't forgive you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. That depends on what you do next, how you face what's coming, whether you take responsibility or keep making excuses. I don't know what to do. Figure it out. You're 35 years old. You made adult choices. Now you handle adult consequences." I hung up, sat there with the phone in my hand, staring at nothing. "That was hard," Edith said. "It was necessary." The trial took 3 weeks to prepare, another week in court. James's lawyer tried every angle: entrapment, insufficient evidence, misunderstanding. None of it stuck. The evidence was overwhelming. Traffic camera footage, lab reports, testimony from Cole and Russell, documentation of his previous schemes. The jury deliberated for 4 hours, found him guilty on all counts: fraud, forgery, 2 counts of attempted poisoning. The judge sentenced him to 6 years in state prison, eligible for parole in 4 with good behavior. James stood there as the sentence was read, shoulders slumped, face blank. A different man from the charming son-in-law who'd walked into my life 4 years ago, or maybe the same man, just with the mask finally removed. Danielle sat in the gallery, watching. The DA had decided not to charge her. Insufficient evidence of knowledge about the poisoning and her cooperation in testifying about the financial manipulation helped her case. But she filed for divorce within a week of James's arrest. Moved out of my house into a small apartment across town. She called sometimes. Left messages I didn't return. Sent texts I didn't answer. Maybe someday. But not yet. I moved back into my house 2 weeks after the trial. Edith came with me. Her apartment lease was ending, and the house had plenty of room. She took the guest bedroom, brought her plants and books, and made it her own. We developed routines. Morning coffee together. Evening news. Sunday dinners where we'd cook elaborate meals and tell stories about our lives. She was remarkable company. Sharp, funny, unsentimental about the world, but kind to the people in it. On a Sunday afternoon near the end of September, 3 months after it all began, we sat on my back porch watching the Portland rain. Edith read a mystery novel. I worked on the oak chair, finally finishing the restoration I'd started in June. "You know," Edith said, not looking up from her book, "your daughter came by Rose Haven last week, asked about you." I set down my sandpaper. "What did you tell her?" "That you're healing, that healing takes time, that she should be patient and work on herself." She glanced at me over her reading glasses. "Was that all right?" "It was perfect." "Do you think you'll forgive her?" "I think, maybe. If she proves she's learned, if she takes real responsibility, if she becomes again the person she was before James. But that's on her, not me." Edith nodded, went back to her book. I picked up the sandpaper again, ran it over the oak's smooth surface. The chair was beautiful now, restored to what it had been, better even. All it had needed was patience, attention, and someone who cared enough to do the work. Maybe people were like that too. Maybe Danielle could be. Maybe. But for now, I had my house, my peace, my life back. I had a friend who understood what it meant to survive betrayal and come out stronger. I had justice served and a future I controlled. The rain kept falling. The chair kept getting smoother. And for the first time in 2 years, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. In my own home. In my own life. Free. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.